Okay, I know what you're thinking. You probably read the title and thought, actually, Section 6 is Sashimi Miyabi, so, clearly they're the most dangerous faction. Alright, yes, but hear me out. So we're about 9 months removed from the debut of Zenless Zone Zero, and we've been introduced to 9 main factions so far. Each faction has had an ample amount of screen time to prove why they should be your favorite, and Zenless has definitely not made that decision easy for us. They've also had ample time to show off their power, and it's safe to say that every faction can kick some serious ass, while some just have some serious ass. Lore-wise, however, a case can be made for Section 6 to be the strongest, as Hashimi Miyabi is so far the only Void Hunter we've been introduced to. Throw in the brains of Yanagi and the unpredictability of both Sokaku and Haramasa, and you have a well-rounded team that seemingly clears a bunch of bikers or some construction workers. But may I remind you that there is a faction that hasn't even shown their full potential yet lore-wise. A faction that we're only starting to learn about in recent patches. A faction that's had our backs from the very beginning. Yep, I'm talking about your boys, the Cunning Hares. Now, before I go any further, allow me to be frank for a second. While Nekomata is technically part of the Cunning Hares, she is the textbook definition of what you see is what you get. We've explored her backstory well in the story chapters already. She was a member of the Red Fang Gang until she wasn't. Then she was adopted by the Cunning Hares, end of story, hip hooray. This isn't a knock on her or anything. She fits into the Cunning Hares like a glove, and plays her role well as a skilled thief. But unless she swallows a talisman and evolves into a Persian, we probably won't see any developments lore-wise out of her from here on. Of course, Hoyo could prove me wrong one day and reveal that she's from some godly ancestral lineage, but it's highly unlikely. Instead, we will focus on the 3 core members of the Hares: Nicole, Anby, and Billy. If anime has taught me anything, the comic relief character isn't exactly all they seem to be. I clearly remember when everyone hated Zenitsu from Demon Slayer until he thunderclap and flashed that zombie's cheeks and people started to like him. If the saying "don't judge a book by its cover" needed a prime example, this would be it. The Cunning Hares are a similar story. We've been acquainted with the Hares since the very beginning. In fact, they were one of the initial small group of people who knew our secret. The Cunning Hares are fronted by the charismatic yet constantly bankrupt leader Nicole Demara. She's a clever businesswoman who always acts in the best interests of the team, and by best interests I mean inflated commission costs, hidden fees, subpar work completion, and debts to the guilds. Power-wise, she doesn't really have a lot going on for her. She wields a giant money in the bank briefcase that has a gun in it, but because it looks so heavy she might as well just whack people with it. Despite her flaws, she has a whole other layer to her character. Nicole grew up rough in an orphanage where she had a best friend who unfortunately got lost in a hollow and as a result got ether corrupted and died shortly after. It was also during this time she discovered her obsession for Denny's. It is said that she usually generously treats the orphanage kids in her off time, which probably explains why she's always on the brink of financial ruin. And I mean, yeah, fair enough. But the most important part of her lore is how she got out of the orphanage. According to her agent Intel, she reached an adoption agreement with a prominent New Eridu family. However, it's unknown who this family is or what became of them, as she would reappear in the streets of New Eridu shortly after. Did this family just let her go, or did she escape? There's a lot to explore here, and no doubt this will become a prominent storyline in of itself in a future update. But whoever this family is could be huge. Could she actually have the power of an entire conglomerate behind her? Could she have walked away from her fortune, unwilling to let go of her roots as an orphan in exchange for the comfort of the high class? Could she have escaped from a laboratory that experimented on orphans? Nicole has shown she is well networked, but could she be hiding far more up her sleeve than she lets on? Hoyo could play around with this, but there is no denying that we haven't even seen the best of Nicole Demara. Next, we have Anby Demara, the cute and calm burger-loving face of the franchise. Don't let the last name fool you. She and Nicole aren't biologically sisters, more on that later. Anby's head is almost always usually buried in the clouds. She's a massive movie fanatic, often incorporating movie storylines into real life, and can be usually found eating her favorite food, which is hamburgers. Throughout the main story, she has always seemed to be skilled in battle despite her nature, and in Chapter 5, she displayed more military-like training skills when they stood off against Section 6. The answer came to us in the form of an entire patch, dedicated to revealing that she was indeed military trained. But not just that, she was Soldier Zero, a genetically modified clone soldier who, before the fall of the old capital, was the captain of the Silver Squad. a squad created to serve the new Air Defense Force. Long story short, she was the strongest of the strong, however she was let go from the military due to disobeying direct orders to kill Soldier 11. But that's an entire other story for another time. She was then dumped near the ruins of the old capital and was found by Nicole, who took her in and gave her the last name Damara. Happy endings for all. So she was literally made to kill. Knowing how strong she really is lore-wise, she can probably solo most of the cast, barring some, of course, but still a huge majority. But who knew our lovable airhead would turn out to be like this? Definitely not me. Last but not least, we have Billy, the intelligent construct usually referred to as the Deadpool of Zenless Zone Zero. It's not that hard to see why. He's the silly and serious one, but can also be a complete bro when he needs to be. I think he hints a few times that he likes Starlight Nights. I'm not exactly sure though. Anyway, under this childish facade lies, well, we don't actually know much about Billy yet. Like the other two, he's been there for us since the beginning, but we've only ever scratched the surface with him. We know he used to be part of the Sons of Caledon, and was there for quite a while because he knew Caesar and Big Daddy for a long time. In fact, when Caesar lost her arm during the fall of the original Caledon gang, it was Billy's spare arm that was given to her as a prosthetic. They say he was feared during his time in the Outer Ring, so we confirm he is crazy strong. And see, that's the thing about Billy. We don't know how strong this guy truly is. People are saying that he might be getting an S rank soon, seeing as how Anby got one, and to be honest, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he also got his own patch, similar to Anby, and through that we find out who Billy truly is. My wild guess is that he was built to be a Terminator type of machine for some evil entity. Not exactly like the T-1000, but more the T-800. An almost invincible, ruthless machine programmed to kill. Somewhere along the line, he was either disposed of or fell in battle, reformatted, and somehow gained sentience before being found by the drifters in the Outer Ring. Probably woke up next to a copy of Starlight Nights or something. Regardless, we're in for a treat when Billy's patch eventually arrives, because we'll finally get to see what he's hiding under that childish facade, and it's guaranteed to be great. So here you have a ruthless military-trained clone soldier, a Terminator, the unpredictable brains of the operation, and a Cats. If I had to choose one faction to protect me from a zombie apocalypse, you bet your ass the Cunning Hares would be high up on my list. I will admit, I am guilty once upon a time for writing off the Hares as a weak faction. Despite their continued relevance in the main story, they were constantly shoved to the side in my eyes every patch in favor of a shiny new faction we were introduced to. But now that we're learning more about them, they as a faction start to get more intriguing. I feel like the Hares will also continue to play a vital role in the main story from here on out, and maybe eventually play into Pathan's story with Carol Anna. I mean, we don't exactly know how far we go back with them, let alone how they met, so there's still a plethora of questions to be answered surrounding the faction. One thing is for sure though, the day we finally explore all their backstories and see the Cunning Hares fight at 100% power, S-rank Nicole please, thank you, it will be a day to remember, because they will shake off their weak comedic perception in the fans' eyes and paracreep the fuck out of every single character in Hoyoverse's existence. Just kidding, please don't do that. So what do you think about the Cunning Hares now that you know more about them? Let's talk about it. Sound off in the comments below. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave it a like. It kind of gives me an idea of what topics you'd like to see me gravitate to in the future. If you have any suggestions for what videos I should do, drop it down below. Maybe I'll explore it. Also consider subscribing if you want to see more. I have a lot of more of these in the pipeline. So if you're interested in that, maybe hit subscribe. Anyways, I've been HigeXP, over and out.